I've been in here for, right mate, 8 weeks. And I still haven't come up with a decent hook system to handle the gunner, and which is just ridiculous. It'd take 2 seconds to design something that was easier than that. But anyway, I'm ready to go. Right, I'm ready to do it. Let's get suited up, and I'm into it. It's been a while. So while I get the rest of the prep done for this epic laminating session ahead, I was thinking back to the other night when I came across an interview with Shane Grover from Seawind Catamarans, and this photograph of the 1160 deck mould with a heap of people working on it. There's actually 8 workers here working hard on this particular deck, and it gave me a huge sense of achievement that I've actually been able to accomplish this deck in around 9.5 weeks with help from family in the initial stages, and then in the last couple of weeks I've been able to get some help from John and a good friend of mine, Jeff, from Canberra, to ultimately finish the foam core. But it did highlight to me the amount of work involved here, and the fact that I read also that a lightweight 45, an Australian-made catamaran, takes around 10 months to build with a team of around 20 people. So I think so far I can be pretty proud of my effort to date.
All right, let's get into it, eh? Let's do it.
Well, you can't imagine what a big day that was. Oh, mate, I'm rooted. So today I've done this part here. I've integrated it to the top. So we've got now 8 layers of glass here on this vertical part of the face here, this curve. Now that has 4 wing frames under it. That, in fact, 5 that support all of that. So we're only ever dealing with 2 feet or so, about 60 centimetres of space in between adjoining bulkheads. We've done the 2 layers, there's layer 300, layer 600, and then peel ply. And then I've come down onto this section here, once again integrated it into here. So I've got the 4 layers here over this section here, and then the 2 layers here. Now effectively this part is now finished, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back with some 1200 quad and actually put it along this section here and along here. It's a bit of a difficult area to foam core. I'm not going to foam core it. In fact, on the original boat they didn't foam core it, but I could do it like this. I could actually finger join it, but to be honest, there's that much support under that area there. I think it'd be a waste of time. It's just going to add a lot of extra work, and to be honest, I'm not going to cut any weight out now because I'm already at that point of no return. Thought this would be a pretty simple area around these hatches, but they took a bit of time because I'm just absolutely consummate about getting these laminates in here around these hatch areas here and over here, making sure that it's consolidated down correctly, because that's actually a tie-in point for the foam core back to the original laminate on the underneath. So the more careful, or the more sort of meticulous I can be with those, the better, and then ultimately I end up with a better structure. But yeah, pretty happy. I'm shattered. It's about 6 at night, and it's going to be a cold night tonight, so luckily the peel ply's down. The humidity's good at the moment. We have got a wet weekend coming up, but yeah, we're going to get down to about 10 degrees overnight. Hopefully that'll kick. It's still around 16 to 17, so next couple of hours is going to be the key, is to keep that laminate sort of catalysing, and it's almost off on this side, and the other side there probably another hour or two. But yeah, pretty happy to have that all done. Getting to some really finishing stages of this deck, and yeah, it's been a pretty big effort today. I'm a bit shagged, and Johnny's just come over. He came over on his way home from work. He's closing up his storage units across the road, and he's offered to give me a hand tomorrow. So Johnny and I tomorrow are going to do along that side, and then along this side as well, and hopefully get down to around the middle point of those windows, because once I get that done, it's all about then tying it in to the actual cockpit windows, and really good place to be for me. And sorry about the big lights, but yeah, it's pitch dark outside and it's going to be cold, so I'm going to get home and have a beer. Right, it's so important. I keep all of my cloth in my factory. I don't leave it anywhere down near the side here. Today we've got like a 40 knot westerly wind, and it's lifting a lot of like latent dust, particularly from the yard next door where they've got the scaffolding business. There's a lot of gravel and road base down, and it's just blowing dust everywhere. Trying to keep the job clean is one of my big battles, and I vacuum a lot, and that's very important, that you keep your cloths in an environment where they're not going to be subject to moisture, dust, obviously all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, windy day, we're going to be doing some laminating. Johnny's coming to help, just bought him a coffee. We're going to get straight into it. Christ, that was a session. Johnny and I, about 3 hours we spent doing the starboard side over here. It's not a big area, it's just back-breaking because of the access, and we were sort of treading on that really fine edge. Only had about an inch or so to walk, and every time we trod down, we'd lift a bit of the glass, have to re-laminate it, Jesus. And yeah, just getting the method is half of the battle with this. So what I'm going to do, I'm here on my own. Johnny's gone for a piss up with his mate at the pub, and he's probably going to come back with about 10 schooners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up there and only probably do about 3/4 of the size of that to give me all this walking room along this companionway. I found that because we were actually laying down into the second walkway on the deck itself, I was actually losing the ability to be able to reach the flange, and then as a result, you know, all hell was breaking loose over there, and our backs were aching, and we were both whinging like a pair of old gits. But anyway, so we're gonna come down here. Probably come down to the bottom of the radius there and just leave that foot or so of walkway there and have less back-breaking leaning. And we had to basically lean right over the job, try to get an appeal ply down. So I'm going to try and simplify it for myself for the Savo. And if John comes back, you know, hopefully it'll make it a bit easier on him as well. He struggles with the mask on. He has struggles to breathe, and he kept taking it off. I kept saying, "Put the mask back on, you naughty bugger." But you know, what do you do? What do you do? You can't tell him. He's a 60-year-old man. You can't tell a 60-year-old man what to do, and no one ever wants to do that. Okay, ready to go. I've got to psych myself up these days. I'm exhausted, but just got to keep going, because the sooner I get these laminates down, the better. But you've got to basically do down this side here, all the way from that front hatch up here, all the way down, hopefully down to here in this one session. It's going to depend on how my back goes. I got a shocking back this week. I don't know what's going on. I do have a bad back typically. It's like one of those nerve things. It just every now and then it goes, and it just totally destroys me. But just keep powering through and get home, have a bit of a rub, bit of a stretch, and just crash. Because I'm feeling like I'm 30 during the day, and then I feel like I'm 100 when I get home at night. Oh, 5 hours later. Holy shit. So that's 8 hours of solid laminating today, and 3 hours with Johnny. Johnny came back, but he was a bit pissed. So, I mean drunk, not angry. So he went up to have some more beers. So I thought, oh, I'd go and join him, but I didn't. I stayed the course, and I got it done. So that there is now 2 layers complete. I can call that finished effectively. But essentially, I've still got a lot of reinforcing to do on that solid glass section there. It's only 4 layers now. It needs to be about 8 layers with at least another 2 layers of quad, because there's absolutely no foam in that region there. So it needs to be a solid glass section to intersect to the hull itself, and that's going to have a lot of glass then reinforcing that. So yeah, pretty good. I've done it. Taking on a very different look now without the foam exposed, and I'm really glad to get that covered now, because it's been getting, you know, a few nicks and scratches in it, and I've had to fill those with the sea light just to make sure that it's all consolidated and I don't get any air bubbles in the laminate. So any little divot where I've dropped something or chipped it or whatever, go back, paste it over, and almost plaster over the top of it with some sea light bog, and then ultimately, yeah, we're getting to a pretty true end result laminate here, so I'm pretty happy. Time to go home. It's Friday night. It's about, holy shit, it's 8 o'clock. Oh, Janet will be wondering where the hell I am. Better go. See ya. I'm going to have a little bit of break from being on the deck. Just on a couple of days where I don't freaking go near the fumes. So what I thought I'd do, feeling a bit greened out after 4 hours in there this morning. I'm going to try to integrate this module into this bulkhead. Now I have to make a pattern for that shape onto the bulkhead to make sure that it transposes perfectly onto it. So I'm just going to do it with a piece of cardboard. But the issue is it's not only going to integrate into that bulkhead, it has to integrate into the main compression bulkhead as well. So there's an overhang of around about 2 feet that where the whole thing has to fit in neatly. So not only have to integrate it into this bulkhead, but I have to put it into the back one and the center bulkhead and the mast bulkhead. So it all has to integrate as one unit so that I can get the whole thing to fit correctly. I've got to start with that cut, and it's doing my head in. Now there's been a bit of concern amongst the YouTube web brain out there about the 30mm foam that I'm standing on here, because the original boat didn't have this 30mm foam. I'm simply going to chop this module short on the top and then integrate it into whatever height the deck sits down at. Now there was actually, I checked with the builder, there was actually a core in the last boat. We're not sure of the thickness of it though. I think it was around 20mm, so I may only be around 10mm out. But what I'm going to have to do is trim the top of the flange there, which has got to come off anyway, and all it'll mean is that this ramp on the back here will be shorter than the original one. So let's get into that. Let's go and have a look behind it and see what we can have a look at. So this is the pattern I've made that essentially duplicates this, and behind here I've got, up on the top here, I've got this module which is from the forward stateroom. It's actually overhanging this bulkhead here where the nav station is, and then in behind, up under here, this layer of foam that you can see right here. Now you'll see that I've already drawn a line there. Now I did that in anticipation of this. I did a full-on measure of the whole mould, but I failed to recognise the foam. So now I've got to readjust that, so it will be 20 mil lower than that line that you can see on the actual bulkhead. It's where this cut's going to be, and of course it has to carry right through to the central bulkhead as well. So there's quite a bit to do in here, plus I've got to work out how I'm going to integrate it in here. Once I get this all integrated, how I'm going to glue this to the actual boat. Now I'm thinking composite angle would be a good start, and then subsequent tabbing. But you got to remember, it's almost impossible to get to. If you look along here, how am I going to get to it? The only way I can conceivably do it is through the hatches in the seat, which is through these hatches here, which will allow me access down below there, but certainly won't give me good access along this curve here. So I've got to work out a way that I'm going to actually integrate this, unless I put a hatch in the bottom of this that I can get into to affect that problem there. Now I can certainly glue it in from there. I'll probably go to about here just by reaching through that hatch, and from there to there. So maybe a piece of composite angle or something there to get the initial tabbing, and then start to work on the rest of the build here. Now there's going to be an electrics cabinet here, electrical panel cabinet here, so I'll have access all the way along here and along here and along the front there. So plenty of ways to integrate it. I just got to make sure I take it carefully how I do this, because I could easily make a big mistake. But yeah, just take your time and get on with it. Righto, so I tried to plunge cut my circular into it, and yeah, taking the top layer of the glass off here, so that's going to be a bit of reparation needed, but that was going to happen anyway. So there's got to be a lot of tabbing and a lot of glassing in here, but yeah, basically got it cut. Not really sure whether it's going to fit yet. I'm going to have to do a few movements, I think, before I'm going to get this thing to fit. But yeah, good to get into this, good to get in something different, to be honest, other than working on that deck, because I've been in there for 2.5 months. That's actually the shape of the boat now. This height here obviously scales down. Now I haven't determined this yet. I won't know that until I can take a template off the actual deck where I've actually laid the foam, because I can't. I'll be probably taking a few templates at certain bulkhead intervals just to get a rough idea, so I can get within a centimetre or two of the actual fit. But yeah, so now I'm going to try to move this across. I fear that I'm going to have to do quite a lot more adjustment than I'm anticipating here, and yeah, but I'll get it across. At least I can move it across now and get it to fit a little better. Now it's important just to do small amounts at a time. What I'm going to do, I've actually measured 1 centimetre high here because I'm not convinced that this is level. And I'm going to just cut it to here where the other dogleg bulkhead actually intersects with it. And that one. Well, I'm very slowly getting there. As you can see, I've got the first half of the bulkhead over on the starboard side already cut level with this module. It does actually overhang into the forward cabins. Now, one of the other problems I'm having here is that this flange on the lower double companionway is actually intersecting with this and hampering my efforts, so it has to be cut off. Now I'm going to have to cut it flush because I can't get this any further back in because it's striking it every time I try to move it in. So I'm going to cut that off now.